Alright, so I released a spoof video. It was kind of a joke after wasting time trying to figure out why a Samsung Galaxy phone wouldn't work, and it ended up being something as stupid as a switch. Truth is, I have another Samsung flip phone that I bought just for the SIM card to use in an iPad mini a long time ago on T-Mobile's system. And it had the same switches, and I pulled 3 of those switches from that phone to replace and put into this Galaxy. And just from pulling the switches off using proper desoldering techniques and temperatures, guess what? All the switches failed. That's how cheap they are. So here is a circuit that's out of, as a matter of fact, I have a new one. It's out of one of these power banks. And basically it's got a step-up converter in there to take a 18650 lithium-ion battery up to 5 volts. So you can plug something into the USB port and charge whatever it is you're charging, which is USB. There's a micro USB to actually charge the battery in here. And it had a little switch on it because it also has an LED flashlight. So the little LED flashlight had a very similar switch, about the same size as the Samsung switch. So since those switches are crap, it just took me 2 seconds to pull this switch, and I tested it and it works. So let's go ahead and go back to the Galaxy here. Remove my awesome non-failing wires that start the phone and try to put an actual switch back on. So you're using a 00 Phillips head screwdriver. There's 9 screws that you'll need to go around and pull off. Something I did notice with that joke video that I did though is that this phone previously, even before I did this wiring switch, just to test the theory, had a crack right there. Right where the wires came out. And you know, it's not just this phone. I've seen 2 other YouTube videos where it has a crack right there along that switch. It just seems to be a weak spot together. The whole design actually just seems to be a weak spot apparently. I've never noticed this weak spot myself because, well, I never bought a Samsung Galaxy phone. So let's go ahead and it's easier. This is the most flexible part to start cracking the case and taking the bezel off, which is actually will help you remove the bezel's part of the whole back. And work your tool around it. Get all the clips out. There we go. Whoops, oh, don't want to mess up my new switch. Still have something just fell out. I know exactly what it is, don't worry. I'll show you that in a second. Come on. We got one clip here that's not coming. There we go. So we can set this aside. And this is actually very important because these are your antennas and stuff. What fell out was there's this little protection piece that goes over top of the charge port here. And it's held in by the case with 2 screws. So this may or may not be loose on your phone, depending. You might want to take that off and set that aside as well. Now we have 1 screw that needs to be removed. It's a black screw right here in your top right hand corner. And you'll know the difference between the screws because, well, this one's a black screw. Set that one aside too. It's also much smaller than the other screws, so you definitely don't want to lose that. Using your splunger, now we're going to remove a few of the cables. This cable over here, we're going to remove this. This goes down to your charging circuit and microphone and one of the antenna leads. Just pops right up. We're going to remove 2 to the left of the camera, right here, off to the left. And again, just simply take your, I'll do this left-handed if I can, splunger, and gently lift those up. There you go. There's another one here connected to your vibration motor. Same method, under, lift up gently. And then you have one more ribbon cable over here. There's a few other ribbon cables on here. Don't worry about those. Leave those where they are. They're fine. They're not going to bother you. This is your last one. Now this is actually the most difficult one to get back on, believe it or not. So I'm going to slightly bend these cables back very gently so they're sort of out of the way when I go to remove this main board here. And we have one antenna lead right here which needs to be disconnected and removed as well. These things, actually this is probably the most trickiest thing to get back on. These little antenna leads. So I don't pinch it, I'm going to actually just move mine back here all the way. And then we can lift the board up from the battery compartment side and pull it towards you a little bit. Why do I feel some tension there? Oh, nope, we're fine. There we go. Now you can choose to work on this with the camera installed, or you can take the camera off. Let's set the rest of the components aside here. We don't need these right now. The camera it's optional. If you don't want to flip it upside down and scratch it, then take the camera off. The camera is very easy to remove. Go ahead and flip it over. There's one more ribbon cable here that you can use your sponger again and gently pry up, and the camera slides out. So we'll set the camera aside just for sake of argument. And over here we have the switch that I previously removed and my awesome switch that I installed. So let's go ahead and warm the soldering iron up and remove these. Now the problem with the switch that I've decided to steal off of this buck boost converter LED driver thingy is it doesn't have mounting holes that go into the PCB like the original switches do. So we're going to use some epoxy or something like epoxy that will hold it down into place, and that way still allow it to hopefully function with the bezel and the case once I screw it all back on together again to make contact with the little plastic part of the switch that pushes against this, so it'll be a functional Galaxy S4 again. I'm just going to go ahead and remove my two awesome switches. There we go. I gotta put this soldering gun somewhere else. It's getting in the way. There we go. So we'll take these very expensive switches that I'm selling to people and we'll put those in the trash can. Done. Now let's take the continuity meter just to double check any of that solder that I put on there for my awesome switches isn't crossing anything where it should be or shouldn't be. It's not. But to be on the safe side, I'm going to take some desoldering wick here. And I'm just going to remove the rest of that solder because I'm going to use some solder paste in my hot air SMD workstation to put this new switch back down. So we're going to lift up this extra solder here with a little piece of solder wick. Turn on my hot air workstation and let's see how this little switch lines up and if this will work. It's a little bit bigger, but it might actually be a little bit more robust too. It may actually work a lot better. So we have a nice clean soldering pads there. Oh, it does have two little holes in there, but the holes aren't lined up. Oh, there is two little, there's little plastic holes, okay. But the holes aren't lined up correctly, and I'm not going to drill two new holes in here by far. Phone's not worth it to me. So maybe I'll just shave those two little nubs on this plastic off. The contacts are going to reach the pads that I want it to reach. Barely. Barely, but it might work. And the switch, you want to be barely past the actual PCB. I'm looking at the volume switches, and the volume switch will give you an idea on how far you want that other switch that may not be identical to be sticking out. This may barely work, but I have to shave off those two little nubs. They're on the bottom here so I can make this flat. As I mentioned, I'm going to use an epoxy to glue this down, so I'm not worried about these two little nubs. Okay. Now we can sit switch down flat. Great. Squeeze some paste out. There we go. In fact, we're not going to use this syringe. It's going to be way too much. I'm looking to do a very, very small amount. So I'm going to take some of the paste with my tool here and just apply a very little bit where I want it. And then see if we can get this switch set into place where I want it, where it will barely make contact with the two contacts on the board that I want it to make contact with. It is close, but it will work, and it looks like I can actually put a little paste there and it'll hit that ground contact too. So that'll help keep it in place. Maybe put a little bit of paste there also as well. Let me lift that up. We'll throw a little bit of paste on that ground contact as well. Right here. And I think there's another ground spot here. All the grounds are connected, and part of the polarity of the switch is connected. So the only one I'm being careful with is the one pad that actually makes the connection when the switch actually, is pressed in. I know technically I should have cleaned this with alcohol, but again, not really worried about this phone at all. This is more of a challenge at this point. The owner of the phone has decided to go buy another Galaxy phone. Funny, huh? Need just a little bit more paste here. Put that right there. Let's give it some hot air and run a continuity test and see if we got it. Just dropped something. There it is. I may need to use a screwdriver to keep this in place. I don't think I have the air on too high, but just in case. And hit that other side. Whoop. Just popped right off, really. Dang it. Had that going really good there too. next time we decide to hit the other side, actually turn the board around. It'll probably work better. It looks like this switch may be a little too long sticking off the side, so I may have to, or I may end up cutting part of the button press here. But before we go into there, let's go ahead and see, make sure we're not shorting out. Good, good, good. Okay. Now if I press the button, good. Alright, so that works. I'm just going to take the probes and scoot away some of the solder that kind of wandered off where it shouldn't have. While it's cooling down. And I can tell you that is sticking off too far, so I may have to cut the nub down on the switch to make it about the same length, or otherwise I may have problems with it functioning inside the bezel case with the other piece of plastic that pushes against it. Seems to be on there pretty good. I got 4 points soldered, so never too late. Let's take some alcohol. I'm take this with a pair of tweezers actually. That way I can get in there and clean that up. There we go. Other side looks good. There is a little spot. We got those holes there so the solder came through. Make sure there's some programming contacts there. Make sure that that solder didn't come across and hit one of those programming contacts. And it did not. It just kind of popped out a little bit down the other side. That's fine. That should be, because that is the ground on the programming contact. The rest of them are okay. Alright. Perfect. Now, I actually don't have any epoxy. But what I do have is this interesting stuff that was given to me for Christmas called Bondic. And Bondic is a ultraviolet hardening chemical that hardens up automatically, and if you're wondering if it's conductive, well, no, it's not. I've actually already tested this on a few of my circuits here. So here's a regulator actually bonded to the voltage reference here while crossing the 3 pins in the back, and it has no effect on the function of the circuit. What I was doing there was actually making the regulator heat up the voltage reference chip so it would be at a higher maintained temperature using the heat from the regulator to actually maintain a better temperature above ambient temperature of my lab. This way, well, basically keeping it much more stable, honestly. So, should we try the bezel or should we trim this down? I'm trying to determine the best way to trim this down. I mean, I can snip it, which may pull it off the board and break the solders. I don't know if I want to do that. Or I can maybe melt it down a little bit with the soldering iron tip. Either way, Let's go ahead and turn this off. I forgot it was still on. We don't need this anymore. So turn that heating element off. And let my workstation cool down. There we go. But either way, I think I want to do this before I Bondic it. Bondic it? Would that be the proper pronunciation for this? I'm not quite sure. Good question. I'm going to go with the trim because these are brand new. They've never been misused on anything harder than actual leads of capacitors or resistors. So we're going to go with let's go ahead and see if we can just trim just a little bit. You're probably better off replacing this with the actual switch that you're supposed to use. But that was actually a perfect cut. The problem with the actual switch you're supposed to use, well, they're crap. It's amazing how many problems I found out there in regards to the switch on this phone. I'm looking at the circuit on the phone now. It lays in this way, right? Yes. Power button comes off right there. The height of the switch is actually, it's a little thicker too. So I'm starting to wonder if that's going to, oh no, it looks like it's going to fit just perfectly. Ah, look at that. I got lucky. But now I have to be very careful with how much Bondic I use here. How much epoxy or Bondic, because I can't increase the height of this. I can't go all the way around it for sure. It will definitely cause a problem. So I'm going to just put a little bit on this side to get under there and seal that to the board. A little bit on this side. Now the nice thing about this is it's not like super glue where you have like seconds to work with it before it hardens. You can put whatever you want to put on there, as much as you want to put on there, or as little as you want to put on there. And then take your time, like I am right now, because I can't find what I'm looking for. Yeah, ain't that something? Did it fall on the floor? No, it didn't fall on the floor. That's cool. Let's turn that off now. There it is. Now I'm going to remove a little excess, what I think would be too much. I don't need that much on there. So now I can actually just use any kind of tool to remove what I think would be a little bit too much. And with this UV light, it takes seconds, 4 seconds about. This stuff heats up, smokes a little bit, and instantly hardens, helping keep your component in place. And it's just as hard as any kind of epoxy. As long as the light can reach it, it will seal it. So that worked very good, actually. I like that. Let me take a close look at this and decide if I want to put any in the front. There's a very little bit I could put in the front. The problem with that is I may actually get some in the switch too, and I don't want to mess up the function of the switch. So we're going to choose to ignore that and not put it in the switch actually. So I have a fairly strong switch on here now. Yeah, that's not really going anywhere. Good. So we'll put our Bondic back in its Bondic case. Dun, dun, dun. Let's go ahead and put our phone back together and see if we have success on this repair. So again, SIM card and micro XD memory card, SD memory card sitting upwards, and battery contacts facing to the right of your phone where the power button is. So we can place this back in. We're going to have a few of these ribbons that we pulled up. We want to make sure we go under the ribbons, or at least assist the ribbons in coming above the board as we slide our board back into place, like so. Looks good. Alright. I may have actually cut that switch a little too short. Oh, that would really suck. Let me take a look at this while it's in place now. Oh, I think we're going to be okay. How's the volumes look? Actually, the volumes are the same. They're flush with this gasket. So, yeah, I think we're going to be okay. Now we can use our splunger, and you know what? That's right. I decided to pull the camera out just for the sake of demonstration, because some people may not want to have damaged or scratched up their camera. Usually I wouldn't do this in the case of this phone because it has no monetary value to me except for the time I put into it retrieving the data off of it for the customer. Actually, it was more of a friend thing. Does it go above? Yeah, it goes above. So we'll slide the camera back in there and line that plug back up. There we go. And we'll put this whole thing back in there again. Dropping it into place. Looks good. Seat the camera in a little bit. Alright. We'll attach this ribbon and the vibration motor here. Usually hear about a double click and you know you got a good attach, good plug. I only heard one click there. There we go, that was 2 clicks, so we're good there. This one seems to be, for some reason, the hardest. I don't know why. So I'm going to use my finger so I can actually kind of move it around a little bit. Oh, I got lucky. This one went right on. Maybe I'm just getting better at taking this phone apart. Now, while you're under the hood of the phone per se, you might want to check some of the other ones too and make sure they're seated correctly. There's little gold tabs here. You could always take your splunger and carefully bend these up just a little bit. These make contact with the back panel for antennas and what have you. Even better, use a pair of tweezers so you have more of a control of how far you bend it up. There's 4 on there that make contact to the back, and since you have it apart, there's actually a couple down bottom. 4 down bottom, I believe. We'll bend these 4 up just a little bit. You don't want to bend them too far, you don't want to break them. But this will ensure the contact's going to be made when you screw the back panel back down. And then our last one is our antenna wire that runs to the antenna at the bottom. This one's always a difficult sucker. This is where you might want to use a pair of tweezers or something to hold it and put it into place and then press down on it. There we go. You can use your splunger to reseat the cable without pushing or pinching on the cable too hard back into its little groove, like so. And then we'll just simply snap this back on. Now let's take a look over here and see what we have. We have some grounding pads, 1, 2, 3 ground pads, 2 contacts down bottom for the speaker and the microphone, couple contacts up here with an antenna. Everything looks clean. I don't think there's need to scrape the contacts off. They're gold, they're shiny, they're clean. I think we're good. So we'll leave that be and we'll just do the blow anything out. Clean up before we put it back together. And if you're worried about your screen, then of course you put the phone face down on a soft cloth when you do this. Again, no value to me. I'm not worried about it. This is not going to be my primary phone. It's not even going to be my secondary phone. It's probably going to just be a phone to screw around with at this point. Start working the bezel around and clicking it down. It seems I've run into hitting that switch. You know what? Actually, I totally forgot something here. Hold on. But let's check this real quick. Because I did seem to... Yeah, I seem to be running into that switch. And not a good way either. Darn it. I'm going to have to review that. It's probably better to order the correct switch, of course. But then again, you're going to run into the same problem you had with the original Switch, because, well, the switches on all the Galaxies just seem to be crap. Maybe somebody made a better replacement switch for it. You could always swap it out for that. I'm trying to fix it with parts on hand and not use the same switch. You know, the whole idea of same mistake, expecting different results kind of theory. Let me see how this goes in and pushes against that switch. Wow, is that very precise? Down to like a very small piece of millimeter just to get that in there perfectly. Let's take some gauging just by eye actually. About the thickness of the tip of the tweezer there. Okay, that's about right too. So I may have to play around with that a little bit to get that outside power button of the bezel to go around the modded switch that I decided to use. But I forgot one thing here, and we're looking for the black screw. There we go. Some of the other screws you put in will actually screw through the board, but the black screw goes right here in front of the two little gold contacts. Screw. And I forgot to put the black screw in. I can't believe I forgot to do that. Not that it will make a difference, because the switch that I was having problems with is on the other side. So now let's go ahead and put the bezel. Whoops, wait. Almost again. There's the protection plate that fell off. It goes around the charge port. Let's not forget to put that back, although it may not be needed. I'm not sure what it's doing there actually. Holding down this customized proprietary micro port or something, I guess. Maybe preventing people from twisting the cable when it's plugged in so it doesn't break off the board as easy. The solder doesn't, you know, it doesn't lose solder connections. Who knows? Now let's see if we can successfully part of it. Ah, no. Did I put the metal plate on upside down after I warned everybody else not to do that? Nope, I just didn't snap it all the way down. There we go. Honestly, it doesn't look bad at all. Just gonna put the battery in. Hold the power button down. Where is it? There it is. Vibrates. Turns on. Start screwing it back together again. power button down, vibrate, and on. So, works for me. Let's wait for it to come on all the way. And you don't hear sound because I actually have the volume turned down, so let's turn the volume up so you know that button works. There you go. Sound. Camera. Camera works. Flash. Super sound effects. Flash works. Video works with flash. Whatever. Why does Samsung Galaxy phone suck? 5 reasons. Wow. Huh. Okay, well, home button. Why does it say safe mode? That's a good question. Hold down the button. Switch things out. I have a feeling this went into safe mode when it was having problems. So I don't know why it's in safe mode now. 78% battery, full Wi-Fi, so full Wi-Fi is definitely a good sign. Hold down the button, power it off. Vibrates again. It's getting pretty warm back there. The processor gets warm, huh? Never realized it. I wonder why it says safe mode though. We'll have to play with that later. I think I have to upgrade the software or reflash it or reset it or something because it detected a problem before, you know. Or does it need the back cover case on? Is there a switch there or something that needs the case on? So there is. There's contacts there that connect to the back cover, I'll bet you. Ah, see? It's not in safe mode anymore, so one more reboot, it fixed itself. Welcome to Android. Take a picture. Flash works. Let me tell the flash to come on. Hold down this button. There we go, do that. There we go. Turning it back on. I've been charging the phone, fully charged. Also played around with it for about an hour or so. Everything seems to be completely functional, so we have a successful repair. Looks like the switch works good. And the previous problem of it not starting is now working without using my guaranteed for life method of starting the phone. If you saw the joke video, you'll know what I'm talking about. I don't know how many of these I'm actually going to sell. Who knows, I might sell some. $10 is pretty cheap for a fix, right? Maybe. Anyway, the button works. Seems to have good response. Been using it. Kind of sat there doing this for a while. Don't seem to have a problem. Phone's not overheating. All the features are working. Everything's working. Camera's working. The whole 9 yards. I don't know about the phone. I don't have a SIM card for this phone. But, I mean, Bluetooth works. Everything works. All the antennas work. I have good signal to Wi-Fi, everything. So we have a successful fix. So, I'm very happy with that. Not a bad deal. Since this seems to be a common problem, and this is not the first Samsung phone that's come across my lab, from friend of friends or friends themselves saying, you know, I have a phone won't turn on. All I care about is the data. It's always the data. Why do people always care about the data? Laptops, computers, same thing. I have it crashed. It doesn't work. Data this, data that. You know, people, please learn to back up your phones and stuff. Everything. I mean, phones, especially phones, they make it so easy these days. Turn on the backup. Let it do the backup every night. Don't worry about it. So if it crashes, you get a new phone, you'll be able to get your data back. Computers, I understand they're a little harder to back up occasionally. They take more data, they take more time. Still worth doing once in a while, especially if you contain your life on it. And these days, everything is a digital life, right? So back it up. It's worth it. Definitely worth it. But as far as the fix to the phone for replacing a switch from a cheap $5 buck boost USB charger circuit, not having to wait to order a switch that will work with it and everything, seems to work good so far. Everything works fine. And yeah, I even did the drop test a few times to make sure that the solder joints wouldn't come loose, and the switch still worked. It didn't lose contact. So that's always still a good thing to try. Make sure it's a good solder joint, not cold joint, and it won't lose contact and what have you. So I'm quite happy with it. We have a successful fix. We have a backup phone. I have an Android I can play with. I guess you have to turn it on then and then do this. Okay, that makes sense. Everything seems to work. I hope this video helped you, and maybe even told you what was wrong with your phone without having to go through the 15 steps of holding volume up, volume down, left, power, flip it over, do a circle, somersault, and all that stuff, and you know, it still doesn't start. Basically, if it doesn't start, you're going to either see it vibrate and nothing, or you're going to see it vibrate and it's going to say Galaxy S4 for about a second, and then it will turn off. That's a dead short. A good sign that your power button is also dead shorting is if you put the battery in and you don't touch the power button and it automatically vibrates and brings up Samsung for about a second and then turns off and you didn't hit the power button, guess what? Your power button is shorted out. And as soon as you pull the battery out and put it back in, it will try to start automatically because it thinks you're holding in the button, but you're not. And then it detects that it's a short and it shuts down. So you won't find anything in the error logs, even if you do get it to boot, even if you do the whole book slam thing or whatever that guy, the Fonz thing that he did. Even if you get it on once or twice, you might get your data off, but you know, once you notice that switch starting to fail, order a new switch or talk to a repair shop and find out how much it'll cost to charge, or how much they'll charge you to repair the switch. But here's a couple switches, and yes, I did remove these from a Samsung flip phone that I had in the house, and it was brand new. It was actually bought as a backup phone a long time ago, and just removing the switches, just the heat from removing the switches, ended up burning these switches out. They wouldn't work anymore. I couldn't get a good conductivity test off of it. So I recommend looking on eBay, and maybe somebody's out there selling brand new switches, but don't try to remove these switches from another Samsung phone to put on your broken Samsung phone. It won't work. The lowest heat I could use to melt that solder, it burned the switches out. This is why I ended up using a switch from a $5 USB charger. But hey, it worked. You know, who knows? Honestly, the switch I put in here may be better than the default Samsung switches that are all having problems. So this may be the Samsung phone that outlives all my other phones in my house. We'll have to wait and see. I hope the video helped you. If you enjoyed the video and you actually learned anything from it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to be notified of future videos. And Happy New Year, I guess. This is the first video release of mine in 2016. So it is a new year. There we go. I meant to release a video at the end of 2015, In fact, I recorded the video, I just never got around to editing it and uploading it. It was going to be the final video of 2015. I still may release that in the end of the week. Basically, it's more of a behind the scenes of everything it takes to kind of do these videos, all the equipment, microphones, lighting, everything else. And thought some people would enjoy it. And kind of a tour of the rest of the lab. Basically another bench and just a bunch of shelves and shelves. Shelves are a good thing to have in a lab. But go ahead and watch that video. I'll eventually get it up there and you can enjoy that video too. Thanks for watching.